Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Hope. My name is Tammy Lynn Connors, and this is my YouTube channel and podcast, Helping Other People Evolve. Today, I have my beautiful friend Lisa with me. How are you, Lisa?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. So I got lucky. I was talking to Cheryl yesterday. Oh, Cheryl said hi, by the way.
Oh.
And I said, I wonder if Lisa would ever do an interview with me. And she's like, probably. And I messaged you, and here we are the next day, which is so awesome.
Well, anytime you call, if I can be there, I'm here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thanks. So I like to tell people a little bit about why I started Hope. And my mission and vision with Hope is just to let people know they don't struggle alone. Unfortunately, there's so many people that go through struggles. I'd have to say actually like 99% of the people in the world go through a struggle. Some people are able to get to a strength and go on. And that's what my mission is. It's just maybe you'll hear Lisa's story or my story or AJ's story. And that day you can be like, oh, I can walk outside today because I can get through my struggle. You know, nobody wants to go through the struggles that we've been through.
Right.
Ever, right?
And there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
There is. And I know you always say
it doesn't always look like it.
Right.
When you're going through it, but in the end there is.
Exactly. Because when you're going through those things, it's like, it's
right.
battle after battle after battle,
right.
But you can come to a light, like you said, at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I always say too, is I've heard the saying so many times, like everybody take their problems and you throw them in a pile, you're going to go grab your own problems back. Because you think yours are the worst in the world. And then I hear your story as we've been sitting here talking and I'm like, oh my goodness,
right.
So if you want, Lisa, if you just maybe, where you grew up, how life was growing up, and then we can kind of go through what the struggle, the biggest struggle that you had to overcome. So.
Right. I was born here in Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
Actually, and we had a great life. I can't say, ever that we ever wanted for anything. My parents provided all the time for us. We were always on cruises and vacations and house, Florida and just everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's not, I wish I could say there's a reason why things happen, but it's crazy. It never did.
Yeah. Where did you go to high school at?
Notre Dame until my junior year.
Yeah.
And then my sister didn't like Notre Dame. And so then we got switched to Southview. Sylvania Southview.
Okay.
So I graduated from Southview.
Nice. I had a couple cousins that graduated from Southview.
Really?
Yep.
I won't say what year until later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after the podcast, right? Actually, I saw my math teacher yesterday, not to change subject, but a little bit. I saw him at my job yesterday and I was like, do you know how many years I've been out of school? And he guessed and I'm like, add 10 to it. We're not going to go there either on how many years. But yeah, it's crazy how fast time goes. So I guess let's go to 2005.
2005. It's a while ago.
Yeah, it really
long
is,
time ago. When you say it,
right.
It doesn't seem like that because of the age that I am now, which I won't say. You forget a lot of things, but that 2005 is when you just remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you talk about growing up, you remember a lot of things that you should have seen, and a lot of things that had posed, I guess something that, we should have just grabbed onto, but we never did. Growing up, my dad and mom, there was always arguments of when it was time to go to her family. It was always an argument before. And then in order to keep them from arguing, when we got to Detroit, it was the meaner we were to the cousins in Detroit, the happier he was, which means when we went home, oh, well, he was happy, we were treating them not wonderfully like we would treat the family in Toledo, that, he was okay then. And everything was okay. And, little things like that now I look back on it and I'm like, why? Because that's the family that's there for me.
Right.
I look at it and I knock on wood because even before walking in here, I was like, what do I do? Because I'm quite honest in all disclosure, I was going to call you and be like, you know what, I really can't. Something, that amazing, came up,
yes.
something happened, I can't make it. But, you know, I'm knocking on wood. I have my cousins and I called two of them and I said, look, you know, I'm gonna do this. And the one was like, I'm gonna tell you, do it because it'll be healing to other people.
Yes.
She's like, but I'm 90% against it. But then my other cousin, he said, I called him right as I was walking in. He's like, well, I gotta walk my dog. I said, well, I just need you for a minute. And so I'm so lucky because after everything growing up we've been through and how my father had us treat them, I can call them on a drop of a dime and it's like, you know,
Yeah.
okay. And so he's like, well, I'm gonna walk my dog, but look, you know, as you talk about it and feelings become raw and that, just remember you're helping someone else, which is a good thing.
Right, right. And
You
that's,
know?
that's my whole purpose here, you know,
Right.
and so, then that's great that your cousins support you like that. You know what
Oh,
I
they,
mean?
you
Yeah.
know, it's crazy because I'm upset really, because we hadn't had a Christmas in Detroit in probably 18 years.
Oh,
Or
goodness.
no, 16 years since 2004, I
Okay.
think, right before it happened. And it was crazy because I'm like, I was all excited. I went, made the great place, made, you know, like you see it on
Right,
my
right. Oh,
Facebook,
yeah.
all my cooking, and I had done all that. And then COVID, it's just
Oh,
always COVID. Why
yeah.
is it these past couple of years,
Yeah,
everything
I
that just
know.
is COVID?
Yeah.
And my cousin that was hosting it, her sister-in-law, which is my cousin's wife, got COVID. And it was
Okay.
like, sucks, you know,
Right,
so
right,
we had to
yeah.
cancel.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah. So growing up, it was like that. There should have been signs that we logged onto and we did it. But in 2005, my father killed my mother, you know, and then turned the gun on himself. And the night before it happened, if we want to go in full disclosure, the police came out to the house and he had a knife to her back.
Mm.
And like I told you, we were living with them. And so I was in the living room and, you know, as the arguments, you know, would ensue, I went and I saw the knife and I said, oh, shoot, I called 911. I really didn't say, oh, shoot, I said something else, but you know me. So I'm gonna keep it clean for you. So I called 911 and just threw the phone down. And Lucas County Sheriff came out and it's my dad. Everybody knew my dad, you know. And they said, well, Alex, you know, and she had the knife to her back and then, well, nothing's going on. So what did they say right away? Oh, is it your son-in-law? And, you know, and because I'm a victim of domestic violence and also a product of it.
Right.
And so it was, no, he's not here. So, well, if it's you two, just go in another room. You two go in separate rooms for the night and sort it out in the morning. And I keep thinking back to if it would have been, if something would have clicked in the sheriff's mind, they would have taken it, you know, but because of who he was, they didn't, you know. And so the next day, as I tell you, they went to bed and, you know, obviously they don't know how, you know, it's like, well, police came out, so, you know, they want to come out again. You know, we're going to be good and everybody's going to be quiet and everybody's going to go to sleep and, you know, whatever. So the next day, it was the day before they were leaving for New York. And, you know, everybody's getting stuff done to go. And he came home for lunch, which is very strange. You know, and he was sitting across from her at the table. And I remember telling him, well, what do you want for lunch? Because I took care of him. When he's family, take care of him. And so I'm sitting there and he just was glaring at her. It was just a weird thing, you know, like glaring. So I said, well, do you want something? Do you want me to make you something? Because that's what us daughters do. We take care of our parents. And she was sitting there and he just was glaring at her. And she was like, oh, Alex, I'm gonna get this done. And I walked out of the room and when I came back, she was saying something to him. She said, Alex, you know, this is gonna be a great trip. you know, and I've decided the girls are all grown. Everybody's grown and everybody's going to take care of themselves. And, you know, you're the love of my life. So we're going to take care of our, you know, we're going to put more for ourselves, more time for ourselves, sort of say. It was glaring. Like, just, what are you glaring for like that? So he went out to the garage and he came back in and his left side of his coat jacket was like big. I looked at him, I said, what are you doing? What's in your coat?
Right.
And he's like, Teresa, come out. I need you to look at the drainage pipes in the front yard. Drainage pipes? What are you doing looking at the drainage pipes? We have people that do our lawn.
Right.
What are you looking at them for? And so my husband looked and he was like, you know, so I said, no, you have your appointment. We need to leave. And I looked at him and he bent down and my daughter at the time was just one, getting ready to turn 2. And he kissed her on the forehead and said, you're the love of my life. You're the light of my life. Because she was the only granddaughter. Right. You know, spoiled, named after his mother, you know. And he's holding his lapel, you know, from his coat jacket, you know. And I looked at him and said, what do you have? And thinking back on it, if anything would have gone off, the bullet would have gone right in her head. Sure. He had a gun in his jacket. So he went out to the garage, he came back in and his jacket looked perfectly normal. You know, and all these things are going off in my head, you know, as you look back on it now. Right. You know, you look back now and you're, you know, so we went to her appointment and we got back, had made dinner and everything, and he came and my husband was outside and he had my husband open the trunk of his car. What are you opening the trunk for? What's going on? And there was a great amount of money that later, after the car was released from police custody, we found, my sister, we found the money in the car before we had sold it. It was a great amount. And so that, you know, my husband didn't miss that, so we didn't know. So obviously he had planned it. And so we took my sons and my husband, and we all drove, and it's like, bring your mom. And I said, okay, so mom, come on, let's ride. And so she got in the car and we took the boys to soccer. And so my husband stayed with them to soccer. And I turned around and drove back with her. And Sophie, and she said, she was saying something to me. I said, you need to go to the police, because I was still mad about the night before.
The night before, right.
So we had an argument. And people who know me know my tempers. I have hot tempers sometimes. So I was really arguing with her.
Right.
Like, you need to go and report this. Right. Report what's going on. This can't keep going on. No, that's your father. How are you talking about your father like that? Okay. Yeah. But he's holding a knife to your back.
Yes.
We need to do something. And so she said no. And to this day, I don't forgive myself, because it's the first time I called her out of her name. Like, you know, you have to go. We need to do this. And she wasn't listening to me. And she was shocked too, because, you know, I just didn't. My mom, everybody knows, was my best friend. Right. You know, if you didn't see her without seeing me, you didn't see myself without seeing her. So I called her out of her name. And we drove up the driveway, and something told me, don't drive up the driveway, but you don't listen, right? To your, you know, you just don't. You're going home, you're like, it's nothing. It was nothing, right? And nobody would ever think in their wildest dreams, right, that it would happen, right? I mean, we grew up with, you know, nothing ever happened, right? And he had just given a large donation of a libido piece to the Sparrow's Nest. Oh, if you're gonna kill your wife, why would you donate to a domestic shelter? Wow. Why would you do that? So, you know, nobody, you know, just don't think of things. But as you look back on life, it's all the look he had. Yeah. And the look he gave to people. And so anyway, we drove up the driveway and she got out of the car and I started yelling at him. And he told me, if you leave right now, he pulled a gun out. He's like, if you leave right now with Sophie, I will not kill her. I promise I will not kill her. We're just gonna go to New York and it'll be fine. Are you crazy? And so I went inside and I acted like I was getting her diaper bag and stuff together. And I hit the door. Well, I was getting the panic button and I got to the back door and I saw him shoot her 4 times.
Oh my goodness.
And then pull her body and set her body up against a tree in the driveway. And he looked up and saw me and he gripped Sophie. And I said, Dad, don't, I'm taking you with me, Sophie. No, you're not. That's my daughter. You're
Right.
not, and so then I grabbed her and I shoved her under my car,
Mhm.
rolled her under it. And I stood there and I'm like, Dad, and he looked at me and he put the gun in his mouth and
Mm.
shot himself.
Oh, Lisa.
And he went down. But at that point, like I said, I had told you, I didn't know for
Right.
sure. You
Right.
don't know,
Right.
I'm not going to walk up.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to walk up to him. So I had already pressed the panic button and I'm like, what do I do? I grabbed Sophie because at this point he's shooting. I don't know what he's going to do.
Right.
I throw Sophie in the car and I drive around the corner to my Aunt Gigi's house. And I said, there's guns going off. He's shooting. And I wanted to leave Sophie there with her.
Right.
And she jumped in the car and went and got my Uncle Jimmy.
Mhm.
And, at that point, when we got back to the house, the police were there and they had blocked off the drive. We had gotten back just in time because they had closed the streets off from Chrissy Road all the way to McCord.
Oh,
So it was a big thing. They broke into the news. They did so many things. And, at that point, things that people say you are a blur.
oh, sure. Sure. It's just like you're living in this nightmare, right? Like it's just like, oh,
Right.
I can't even imagine.
And so then, the neighbor that I told you had gone to help her and resuscitate her. I told the police while she was there. So the police grabbed me, bags over my hands, and the neighbor said, no, she was.
No, right.
No.
Oh,
He had.
right.
She was screaming.
Right.
What else are you gonna do?
Right.
And so from that point on, life was different.
Yeah, way different.
Way.
Now, your daughter, you said was a little over a year.
Yes.
So does she doesn't remember any of it, does she?
I want to believe she doesn't.
Yeah,
but
that's a young age. So I mean, I
Right.
would hope that
yeah.
that at that age, it's funny because, or I always say amazing because I feel like God, the universe, whatever people
Mhm.
believe, has things like I've been talking about different things like this. And I was just talking to somebody yesterday that we were talking about somebody that was like 3 and under, not really remembering things,
Right.
thankfully, a lot of times, right? And
Right.
so, I mean, if she, I won't ask how old she is then, because we're gonna be giving our ages.
Oh no, she's
No.
the
How old
youngest.
is
She's
she?
she's the youngest girl, and then I have
Okay.
a son younger than her. She'll be 20
Oh, okay.
in February.
Does she ever say anything about it?
People come up to her
Oh, okay.
and say, I knew your grandmother, I knew your
Mhm.
grandfather. She went to Old Orchard.
Okay.
And one of the gym teachers
Mm,
had golfed with my mom.
Okay.
And she pulled me aside, my husband and I aside, and she's like, am I allowed to talk to her? She's got questions.
Mhm.
And I think she's afraid to ask
Mm,
you two.
Yeah, yeah,
And my husband's like, sure, but
yeah,
nothing,
Right.
nothing
yeah,
about the incident.
good.
And so she was very kind and told her that she was an amazing golfer. She was an amazing golfer. She was amazing in the community. She did everything.
Yeah,
She the Opera Guild, the Sapphire Balls,
Yeah.
the Symphony, everything. And so it's just, it's a lot.
yeah,
So
yeah,
and I believe that Sophie had asked her about my dad, and she just said that he was a designer, and just left it at that. He's a businessman, he's a designer,
Mhm.
left it.
yeah.
Then amazingly, I was at my best friend's house, and her husband, which I knew, had done business dealings with my dad, and I did not know that her aunt worked for one of my dad's best friends.
Oh, okay.
And so she knew my dad. She was always like, you never would guess.
Yeah.
You know,
and
people always say you would never guess.
Yeah, and you know what, the thing is a lot of times it's like that, you know,
Right.
like I said, I grew up, my father was, you know, my mom went through all the beatings and things too, and but if anybody that knows him, knew him, they'd be like, no, not
Right.
John. He's the nicest
Exactly.
guy, fun
Right.
loving, all of that, you know, and then they get home and it's a whole different
Right.
person, and it's,
Right.
and then,
When we were little, I told you when I was little, they would, my bedroom was right next to theirs, and they would argue. And I would just start crying, like trying crying, or
Right.
start crying like I was woken up out of a dead sleep. Well, then they stop.
Mhm,
Well, that's not Alex saying.
right,
That's not Alex. He would not
Right.
do that.
right,
You know, and then I'm thankful to, you know, my Detroit family, my cousins in Detroit, because they're like, there's a lot you didn't know. They finally told me,
Mhm.
you know, because I think we had talked about it, you know, around Christmas time. My one cousin, who is the oldest cousin now, she's like, I just want to remember that day. I just want to remember stuff. And I'm like, why?
Yeah,
You know, and then she's like, well, because her name is Sandy. She's like, because Michael and I were talking about it. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to remember?
Right.
Because I've got it ingrained, you know,
right,
you know,
right,
I'll be sleeping, and to this day,
yeah, I
you
wondered
know,
about that.
I'll jump up for, you know, if
Yeah.
I hear something, I
Yeah.
hate balloons, you
Mhm.
know, and stuff in that, because then it's just, you know, you jump up to it. I have a great husband, you know, because he's like, sorry, it's not this, it's not, you know.
Right, yeah, because that trauma is there, and
It's there.
those triggers will always be there, I'm sure. I mean,
Right.
I'm even thinking going to therapy and things like that, that still, that sound has to be like,
Yes,
because,
it's
so.
years of therapy too.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm sure.
Years. We
So
went.
I don't know if you ever heard me talk about my friend in Arizona. I actually interviewed her son and his fiance, but their dad shot and killed their mom, shot her 14 times in her car.
Wow.
He didn't kill himself. He had one bullet, but went to the mountains and didn't kill himself. But just through the whole court hearing, we heard those 14 gunshots.
Right.
So I can't imagine like being right there and,
Right.
and hearing that and knowing, you know,
Mhm.
it's just a lot of healing that you have to go through.
Right.
I know that you said that you spoke at a domestic violence place
Mhm.
through the YWCA.
It
or
was
something
Project,
like that.
it's, I don't even know if it's still in existence. It was Project Genesis. Augustine would have me go, and, you know, once a year for Christmas, I would, I quit doing it, which I shouldn't have years ago, but, you know, go and try and give to the women in that.
Mhm.
It's hard, because like, it's hard to see it from different angles. I think
Right.
the women, it's hard to see what it does to their kids and
Mhm.
the impact that so many things have,
Right, right.
you know.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of too, because like I said, I was in a domestic violence relationship, and it was almost, I mean, I don't want to ever say this like this, but it was almost normal when I was in that relationship, because that's the way that my mom was treated.
Right,
you
that's
know?
how you, yeah, and I'm lucky to
Right.
break
Yes,
the mold, because and my husband has given my daughters so much game, like, you don't have somebody talk to you like this, you don't do this, you don't do that. It's I think this generation though, I think they're the women or the girls coming up now, because I see it with my daughter.
right,
They're a lot stronger. Back then, we were not as strong. We were thought that we have to stay home, we have to do, you know, and I think it's not like that
yeah,
anymore.
and that's such a fact. Like, I did an interview with a lady a little bit ago, and she asked me, like, what do you think made your mom stay, right? And I said, you know, we have to go back, this was 1978,
Right.
So let's just say 1967 to 78.
Mhm.
You didn't reach out to people about it. You kept it to yourself, right? You're not going to go tell somebody that he's beating you. It just doesn't work like
Right.
that back then, back in those days,
No.
right? You were the wife, you did what you were supposed to do,
Mhm.
you know, and that's the way that it was. And not that I'm saying that, how do I want to say it? I want to say that it was okay back then and it's okay now to report it. It's okay now to report it. It was okay back then to report it. Because
Right.
people didn't, you know, you're
Right.
supposed to keep yourself quiet. My mom was like that all the time to me.
Well,
Like-
I'm looking at it in 2005, and she was calling his brothers. In fact, she called his oldest brother, Phil, before it happened, before we left to take the boys. Well, this is what happened the night before. And you know what his question was to her?
What did you do?
What did you do?
I knew you were gonna say
What
that.
did you do to make him
that mad? Isn't that sad?
It's, what did you, And I remember just getting so upset, like, really? And that's why and I think that's another reason it precipitated the fight between us in the car coming back.
Right.
Like, you can't keep going to them. They're obviously going to take his side.
Right.
Because the story that he tells, is going to be the story that makes him look good.
Right. And that's the thing, I was just talking to somebody today, again, about domestic violence and how people stay in those situations.
Right.
And it's so for your mom, because I can just picture her just being this sweet lady, right? I just see that.
She was an amazing woman.
And that's what I see.
Right.
And so I think about how the manipulation and all of that happens, like everything, my ex was so good at turning everything around that it was my fault. And I was like, wait, and I would believe it. I'd be like, wait. And then I'd be like, wait, I didn't do anything wrong. How is this my fault?
Right.
But he would always turn it around some way or another.
She went, and I'll tell you, in the, because of course he had businesses in Toledo. So she would go and wake up in the morning and we had, someone help us clean the house and that. So Velma would come and she was never allowed to leave Velma at the house. So she would clean the house before Velma came.
Right.
I don't even understand that one, but okay. So she would clean, then Velma would come and Velma would clean and that. And because we could never have anything that was not pristine and show, where he could walk in anytime and just bring, and show off.
Right.
And we had to be dressed all the time, and because everything was show. And that's like one of the factors that you look at.
Right.
But so she would go and she would sit there and she would go to the office, do his paperwork, do his bookkeeping, and then she would go if she had to go to an opera meeting or, Sapphire to the symphony or whatever meeting, she would do that. Then she would be, when we were younger, PTA mom, and then make sure dinner was ready at 5 o'clock when he walked in, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I look at it like, are you serious?
Yeah.
But it was never enough. So then she was so precise that at night, my cousin Sandy, we were talking about this, at night she would call my cousin and be like, oh, well, I'm doing the books. Didn't you do the books? But there was a penny off. I'll give you the penny. That's how I feel nowadays. I'll give you the penny.
Right.
But she would be up till, all hours of the night, just making sure that everything was perfect for him.
And I think what I've found in anybody I've talked to about, even with addiction or abuse or anything like that, we always find, even men or women, whichever are going through it, because men go through it too, it's not just us women that go through it, but you find that glimmer of hope, like that time that your dad's like kind to her, right? And so she's like, oh my God, I know that he can get there. I know I can help him get there. And if he's there, then it's all going to be good, and you try your hardest, and that's what, I think that's one of the hardest things, because I'm such an empath. So I always can find a good in somebody somewhere. I'm like, there's good there somewhere. And I used to be the one that was like, I can change them. I know I can. I've learned. No, I can't.
No.
So I don't. So now I can walk away from it. But so there's got to been a lot of healing that you've had to go through to be able to even.
Amazing amount.
Yeah. To go through life.
He went, in fact, to try and I'll admit that I did he was in the hospital. When they brought the helicopter in, I thought it was for my mother.
Okay.
And
the life flight.
the life flight. Yes.
Okay.
And when they brought him down the driveway, our driveway was long.
Okay.
Like long. So I'm watching the ambulance drive down the driveway, and they have somebody in the back, right? You can see them working. I'm like, oh, she's fine. The gun, she's shot, but she's fine, And they get the gurney out and they're taking it to the helicopter and it's him. No, what are you doing?
Right,
No, not him.
right,
She was the one that, got shot. You don't take him first because in my mind, I'm like, he did the shooting. He
Right.
shouldn't go first.
right.
You should take the victim first. So then the next ambulance comes down and they're working on her and they put a sheet over her.
Mm,
And I lost it.
I'm
I'm
sure.
in the middle of Bancroft Street just screaming,
Yeah.
And that moment, I don't have white sheets in my house.
Mm,
Yeah, they're white, but they'll always have something on them.
right.
I can tell you one thing that happened. I was pregnant with my youngest son, Devin, and my daughter, we had just gotten back from Kalahari. We had taken the older kids to Kalahari, and Sophie always wanted to follow her husband around. The nurses, her older brothers around. They had gone in the garage for something, and they didn't realize that she had followed them. And Sophie, you've seen my daughter; she's 4'8" now,
Right,
at
right.
20.
Right,
So back then she was 2 foot tall,
right,
maybe.
right.
So they didn't realize, they're so tall, they didn't realize that she was behind them.
Mhm.
So she had jumped in one of the vehicles, and they went and closed the garage door. And this was like back in April, so it's still cold.
Mhm.
The kids were on spring break, so it's still cold. So we're watching TV and that, and then one of the kids says, "Where's Sophie?" I said, "She's upstairs with you guys." "No, she's not."
Mm,
"What do you mean she's not? Where's Sophie?" So then everybody gets up.
right.
Everybody's running through the house to look for Sophie. We can't find Sophie. All of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. He opens the garage door, and there you see, laying on the garage floor, is my daughter with the white, and there's a white sheet
Okay.
in the car.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, my God, I screamed so bad
Yeah.
at the top of my lungs. Everybody had to leave the house. That was it. Everybody
Right.
but Sophie leaves the house,
Right. Yeah.
And my son RJ looked at me, he's like, we've got to get past this. We have to get over it. You don't.
Right.
There's certain
Yeah.
things that it causes flashbacks.
Sure.
And you have to reason with yourself and allow yourself to feel those.
Right. Right.
Allow yourself to feel what you want to feel with them.
Yeah.
Because, if you suppress it, it's only going to do you wrong.
Right. Right.
So you have to allow yourself that, and now they look back at it and
Right.
they're like, you went off. And I'm like, and then my son Zach will say, we kind of were scared of you at that time.
Right. Right.
But you see your daughter and it's
Sure.
you get the flashbacks.
That triggers that
we saw
flashback.
it.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. And like you tell the boys, you didn't see what I saw.
Right. Right.
And that's that's something you don't get over.
Right. You'll never, ever be able to forget that.
And so, then sometimes nephews, they thought it would be funny. They were letting off, what do you call it? During COVID, they were letting off firecrackers in that they had put it in we had a smoker and they threw them in the smoker and boom.
Oh yeah.
It's just that, and to this day, and COVID was just like,
Right.
We're still going through it, but 2 years ago, to this day, firecrackers are still,
I can
certain
imagine.
things
Yeah.
will still trigger you to feel that. And
Yeah.
like, like my husband has told the kids, you have to let her feel those.
Right.
Because if you don't, it's not going to be good.
Right. Right.
It's healing. And I think the whole life you go through healing.
Exactly. So you said that they ended up life flighting your dad then?
Yes. They life flighted him to Toledo Hospital. He went into surgery and, we got to the hospital. They closed the floor off and that. And I guess they locked the hospital down too. I believe that's what they did for gunshot victims, but they locked off the second floor surgery floor for us. And so my cousin, cousin Sahadi, he was an attorney in Toledo at the time. he showed up, said, got in. And it was that point in time where we had to call Detroit.
Mm.
And I remember the first call I made was to my Aunt Adele's house.
Okay.
And my cousin Michael picked up the line with her. And I said, Aunt Adele, she's dead. And my Aunt Adele was like, what? And Michael was like, Lisa, what are you talking about?
Right.
And I said, he shot her. And he's like, this isn't funny. And I'm like, no, he shot her.
Right.
That was unheard of then.
Right. Right.
I mean, I'm going back to, it was unheard of. Now, you never heard of these.
Right.
And so Aunt Adele had hung the phone up, and Michael was like, what do you mean? And I told him what happened. And so then he said, I'll call you tomorrow. And I said, all right. And so then my next call was to my Aunt Rose, her other sister. And Aunt Rose answered the phone. And I mean, this happened. It happened at 8:30 at night.
Okay.
I mean, you never forget. 8:30 on July 15th, you never forget.
Right.
You just sit there and it hits you.
Yeah.
Like all at once.
Right.
You don't even have to ask me what time it is.
Right.
Yeah. Each year. So I called my Aunt Rose, and it was like 10:30 at that time. And I said, Aunt Rose, she's dead. My Aunt Rose said, Lisa, it's not funny. This is not funny. And I said, no, he shot her. And she's like, what are you talking about? It was like, what do you mean? And so Asad grabbed the phone. He goes, obviously you're not getting across to them correctly.
Right,
It's like,
right.
so he said, I'm going to take over calling. So he got on the phone and, told her, like, this is what happened. This is what it is. It's on the news and it's on everything. So with it, they came in the next day. Everybody came in that. And we had to hide from, everybody wanted, they were outside the business, the media was. And so outside the house, and they had we had a condo too, and that got cordoned off and stuff. And so we went to a hotel and kind of hid at the hotel.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because it's like you said, you saw your teacher. It was the day of the showing for my mom. And I went to St. Francis Education Center when I was younger.
Okay.
They had just started that when we were going through school.
Okay.
Without aging myself, we were,
Right.
one of the first classes to go through it. And my second grade teacher, Sister Brenda, and Sister Ann, found us at Target. And it was like, it was comforting to see them. Sister Brenda was the meanest second grade teacher.
It happens.
But they're like, it's going to be okay. And showed up to, they said, well, when is it? We said, well, we're just getting, I think we had to go, stuff to go.
Sure.
And they surprised us and showed up,
Mhm.
and it was nice.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of crazy.
Now, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one in Toledo.
You're the only one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So of my mom and dad.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when I talk to my Philip and Christina, my friends that I was talking about in California that I interviewed, it's, I mean, you just lost both your parents, and so, and like with them, their dad's in prison forever, he has no hope. They finally, they sentenced him last year in January, but not only did you lose your mom to a horrific violence, and then to lose your father too, it's got to be such a grieving process, period.
It is, but see, he was still living. He was in intensive care.
Okay.
My sister, we called my sister, she flew in, of course, the next day from New York. And then everybody just started coming, so, but she was the first to come in, and they said, we'll leave him on life support. So he was on life support until after her funeral.
Okay.
And then it was the day, it was like the Wednesday after her funeral. They took him off life support.
Mhm.
And then a week to the day after her funeral was his funeral. He did not have a funeral, he had a showing.
Okay.
We did not have a full funeral for him.
Mhm.
But the crazy thing is, it was a couple years later, my husband and I had reconnected with my cousin. She was going through it. She was being abused by her husband.
Mm.
So some cousins reached out and said, can you talk to her because he's serious. He's in Michigan and it's pretty serious.
Mhm.
And so, I talked to her and then we kept going down to get her. And she moved to Toledo. And then, she was with her family and everything. And we just kind of lost touch for a minute. And I was going through some health issues. And then she called me out of the blue. And she said, I'm in Michigan. I need you to have Jason, my husband, and his brother's come and get me and get me to Toledo. And so I told my husband, I said, Ann needs you. She needs you to go and get her. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it again. No. And I said, you need to go. I feel like you need to go tonight and get her. He's like, no, she's just going to go right back, and it's, and I wish I would have driven to go get her by myself. Her husband killed her. But see, he didn't kill himself. He's awaiting trial, I guess, still. And this is from 2015, or no, 2016 or 17. And, it brings back.
Sure it does.
It just comes back. And it's
Right.
like, what could you have done?
Right.
Because you're constantly asking yourself, what could you have done different?
Mhm.
And then you have people stop you in the street. Well, what happened? Because they don't believe it.
Right.
What happened?
Right.
What could have happened? And everybody wants to say it's because of his accident in New York. He had a brain injury. And I don't believe that anymore. After all these years and, going and hearing and talking to people, I believe part of it was that, but I believe, after talking to my cousin Sandy, that it was there. We just didn't.
We just didn't see it.
We just didn't follow the
Because,
signs
well-
were there.
Well, they were there, but I think it was just normal, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how it was
Yeah.
since you were born. I mean,
Right.
it was just normal,
I mean,
was-
they would argue, they would
Right.
fight, but they would do it when, the kids were sleeping, because, we were up and we were out, we were the picture perfect family.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that.
Last night at the casino when I was working, there was 4 people there, and the man was like, he's loud, and then I would watch how he would talk to his wife or girlfriend, I don't know what she
Yeah.
was, and then there was the mom and dad there too.
Mhm.
Well, in my head, I was like, that must be his parents, because the dad was treating the mom like crap, right?
right.
Yelling at her and stuff.
Mhm.
And then I asked, the one guy was gone, I was like, so are you guys related? And
Mhm.
she was like, yeah, that's my mom and dad. And then I thought, oh, so the dad yells at the mom like that, and now her husband or boyfriend, whatever he was, yells at her like that. Because to
It's a
her,
pattern.
it's normal.
Right.
That's the way that, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's so hard to break that circle,
Right.
right? And when we can, just like with my addiction, I feel like in my family, we have alcoholics all over, but
Mhm.
now I'm sober. I have I have 2 cousins that are sober and another cousin that's getting sober. And I'm like, because that cycle started to be broken, and I
Right.
think that being aware of the domestic violence and how we should not be treated
Right.
is something that people need to be more aware of, because it's rough out here in this world, let me tell you. It really
It
is.
is.
But just, I appreciate you sharing, that, I mean, that was,
Anytime.
what you went through is horrible, and to think that what your mom probably went through for all those years,
Right.
and trying to reach out for help, like you said, to your dad's family, because she probably didn't reach out too much to her family.
From what I understand, she reached out to my cousin,
Yeah,
but their thing was leave.
right,
And well, I can't leave.
right.
Why can't you leave? Well, I can't leave. What would he do?
Well, that's the thing.
That's the way, that they were back then.
Mhm.
She was of that, she wasn't, when I was born, she was not a young mother,
Right.
so that
Yeah.
they were up there. And like I said, it was all about looks
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
show. Well, I couldn't leave him with,
Well, and I'm sure if I know, I mean, I
Right.
don't know him, but
right,
you have that, if you leave me, I'll take the kids. If you leave me, I'll kill you.
right,
All those things that they
Right.
tell you, and
Right.
you believe it, because
right.
if you leave me, you'll never find anybody else because
Well,
you're
come to
so
find
ugly
out-
and
Yeah,
we're
well, come to
worthless.
find out from my cousin, he was holding a gun to her head at night when she would sleep.
Mm,
And how did I not know this?
right, right.
And well, she didn't want you to know. Well, wait a minute. I had kids living in that house,
Right, right, yeah,
Bullets don't have a name on
right,
them,
right.
and why wasn't I told about it? Because maybe
she-
I could have pushed her away.
Right.
But no, she was always for the kid. She was the typical Mediterranean mother,
Mhm,
always for the kids. Kids, came first and
Mhm.
everything,
mhm,
and
Yeah.
so that's how it went.
Right, yeah,
So
well,
once we did find out, it's too late.
too late, right.
Yeah.
Such a sad story, but you're such a beautiful person,
Oh,
and
thank
and
you.
I've just recently, really, we've been friends on Facebook,
Yes.
but just recently met you in person and
Right.
interacted a little bit more.
We were at the first time I met you at Cheryl's house. I had Devin with me, remember?
Oh, I remember.
I
I
remember that day.
Oh, I remember that day for sure.
Yeah. And I
yeah.
just loved you. She's so warm.
Aw,
You're just
thank
a
you.
warm person.
Thank
Just
you.
wonderful.
You know what? I just try to be the light in the world. That's it. That's all I
Yes.
want to be, and
Mhm.
that's why I do this. I just feel like I said, so many people are at home, they feel like their
Uh-huh.
struggle is the worst struggle, which there are horrible struggles out there. But
Right.
just to know, you hear your story and I mean, what is it, 17 years now?
It'll be
Coming up on
17.
18.
It'll be
18 years.
It'll be
this year.
18 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, coming up on 18 years, and you're still going, right?
Right.
Because I mean, you have kids and you have
My cousin in Detroit. I should actually be in Detroit. They don't want, they're like, no, stay in Toledo.
Stay in Toledo,
But
yeah.
no, like she said, and my uncle said, you can either sit down in the pile that you're in, or you can move forward.
Yes.
And that's what you have to do. I mean, I had kids, and when it happened, I had young kids.
Right.
And, you have to just go forward for them. And I had to go through, I went through counseling. I went through Project Genesis myself.
Okay.
Back when it happened, because, I had to. I mean,
Right.
where do you go from there? I was like a fish out of water.
Right.
My parents, I lived in their house.
Right.
Like I said, he thought that we were a dynasty. We had our own part of the house. And, there was money under the door every morning. We never wanted, food was always in the refrigerator. I didn't go grocery shopping.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Whatever we felt like eating or whatever he wanted myself to cook or my mother to cook, he would call and we'd pull it out of the fridge. It was there.
Right.
Or the freezer.
Right.
What do you mean? Pay a bill? What do you mean?
Right.
It was done.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of it.
Yeah. So you had to learn everything.
Yeah. So like everybody said they hindered you. So now I'm teaching my daughter, this is what it is. This is what you have to do. We won't be around forever.
Right.
Thank God, I'm able to teach her. I'm here. I'm able to teach her.
Yes.
But, I think back, if I wouldn't have begged him before he did it for her, where would I be? Because it's like, I look at her every day and it's like, and I'll say, it was hard for a while, that I look at her every day and everybody's like, well, how did you make that decision? Who did you save? And I said, there was no decision.
Right.
There was none, I went through the time where it was like, should I have saved her? Because I was a fish out of water. I didn't know anything. My mom did everything for me. What are you talking about?
Right.
And then, I just look every day and I look at the friendship that she and I have. And that's my best friend. So it's like, some things we keep.
Yeah.
We keep that friendship, going.
Yeah. Now, do you still go to counseling or?
No.
No.
did I?
Yeah.
It's been years.
Yeah. Well, and I always tell people too, you know, with counseling, it's such a good thing. And,
Mhm.
and the thing is too, is you don't have to have counseling forever,
No.
you know? And that's some people, like my mom, she should have went to counseling and I would tell her all the time, she's like, I'm fine. I'm like, you are not fine. I know what you
Right.
went through in life, right?
Right.
But people think that counseling means you're crazy, you're psycho or something like that.
No.
Really, counseling is just to heal you.
Right.
And you can go talk to somebody that knows
Like, who
nothing
do you,
about you.
yeah, like, who do you talk to? Like, everybody knew him, so you,
Right.
we were still under the thing of,
Sure.
we have to keep up these appearances
Right.
because, you know,
Who he was.
who he was, we had to keep up the appearances. So what did we do? Yeah, we all went to,
Yeah,
we
good.
all had to go to counseling,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and that, and, it was good too.
yeah,
You know, because like I had to go, and when we were at the funeral home, it was like, don't look at the body, Myra. I have to look at the body. I have to make sure it's real. Because we just kept walking around for the longest time, like, you know,
right,
funk, like,
right.
is it real? And so
Right.
like when her body was released and made it to the funeral home, and that's something I don't ever recommend somebody doing,
No.
you know,
Yeah.
but it made it real.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know, it
Yeah.
made it real
Yeah.
because then it was like, wow,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a long journey.
yeah, it's a long
But there
journey.
is light at the end.
Right, right. I
Yeah,
mean, you
it's-
are you're a positive, you're really big in the city, you know, I know a lot of the same people, we know a lot of the same people. And just your light is always bright and you're always commenting and uplifting people. And that's
Oh,
just
thank
amazing
you.
that you do that,
Because
you know?
it's easier, because you never know
Mm,
when you make a comment on somebody's post,
You
or
make
when
me
you
cry
see
now.
somebody,
yeah,
you never know if that person, your comment changed their life.
right.
If they're, you know, your uplifting comment, it's so easy to be nice.
So easy.
It's so easy to just keep scrolling, or it's so easy to walk by somebody,
Yeah.
but there's always some little thing that you can look at and say, there's always got to be
Always
something good in something.
Yes, yes.
Like I'm not gonna just walk by somebody. Oh,
Right.
you're beautiful. Oh,
Right.
you know, I love your outfit.
Yeah,
You have a great hairdo.
yes,
You
yes.
know,
I talk about that
and
all the time.
And you might make that person's day,
That's right.
you know, and you never know what somebody's
You never
going
know.
through.
You never know.
You know, and so that's why I always try to do that,
Mhm.
because it's so much easier to be nice.
It really is. And
Yeah.
it's when you just said that, so that's my biggest thing. Like I talk about that all the time, man,
Mm.
just give somebody a smile, just tell them
Right.
hi. You
Right.
never know. That moment, that person could be thinking of maybe going and jumping off a bridge. You
Right.
don't know. And maybe your
Exactly.
smile or your little conversation with them
Right.
change something, right?
Exactly. And
So-
that's why I just, you know, there's always something good.
Always.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
always a
agree.
positive note of something.
Yes, I agree
You know,
100%.
like even sitting there, you know, and going over the years and remembering, there's always that positive,
Mhm. Yeah,
you know, because not everything is always so
Right,
bad.
right.
You know?
Yeah,
And like you said, somebody can be wanting to jump over a bridge, say something,
right. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, when you said that about the positive, there's always positive, because you know, I always talk about my drinking as my career for like
Yeah.
7 years straight. It was nothing but drinking. And my one friend one day, he's like, you only talk about the negatives. And I'm like, you're right. No, there was good times. Oh, trust me, I had a lot of good times too when I was
Right.
drinking, right? But I'm always like, but I did, you know,
Right.
but it ended up being such a bad thing. But I had good times then, you
Mhm.
know, and that's something that I think we always have to remember too, or we have
Right.
to hold on to the good times and just always, like you said, be kind. Just be a kind person.
Right.
If we could have
It's
everybody
so
be kind, oh
easy.
my goodness, what
It's
a
so-
different world we live in.
Yeah, it's so easy
Easy.
to just be nice to
It really
somebody.
is. I think it's harder to be grumpy to somebody. I have the hardest time because then I'm even.
Oh,
if
I
I'm-
can be.
Well, I know you can be.
I can be. You know, don't ask my husband, because I can't be.
Yeah,
Why isn't
right,
this,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
But you're right, it is so much
Yeah,
easier,
it
you know,
is.
and I try to.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you coming here today and meeting with me and doing
Good to
this.
see
I think I'm
you.
all good to see you
It's
too.
so
We're gonna have
good
a
to see
movie
you,
night
yeah.
soon, her and I.
Yes.
Yes, and Cheryl and little Aaliyah. So anyways, you guys, thank you so much for jumping on Hope. We appreciate you. And once again, my beautiful friend Lisa took the time out today to be with us. So you guys have an amazing day. And remember, if you're struggling, you're not alone. A lot of people struggle in this world, but you can get to a strength. I promise you. You know, reach out to somebody, whether it's me, Lisa, whoever, just reach out to somebody and they might, you know, be able to brighten your day a little bit.
Right.
You guys take care and have a great day.
Thank you.